All right, we're a couple weeks away. It just feels like this thing's taken forever. We're in the swing of fall camp. We're getting little snippets, little pieces of information here or there. We're getting a little bit of puzzle pieces. This is like a 1,000 piece puzzle, and I'd say we've gotten about maybe 75 pieces of the puzzle. There's a lot of mystery around this team. There's a lot of curiosity from this fan base because of how bad the team was last year, unfortunately. And there's a lot to break down, and we have a lot of expectations. So I wanted to talk about the players again today. I've done a few videos on players, but today I'm throwing even more players into the pot of discussion. I'm going to do something a little bit fun today, a little different. We're going to make a tier list. A tier list of some select players on the team. I picked some of the most compelling players. I didn't pick everyone. It's not a comprehensive list, but I just picked as many interesting names as I could, and I left a few out that I really didn't want to highlight here today. But I think that this list will really put into perspective some expectations, some things to look out for, and hopefully some big-time players on the year that maybe we didn't see before. So we have 4 categories on this tier list. The green one is potential breakout players, as you can see. Those are players that are probably either younger or haven't had a role before on this team that was super meaningful, that are poised to maybe make a big breakout kind of performance on the year. Prove it players are players we have seen before, but we expect and almost need a leap from on the year. Maybe think about like a Reuben Father. He had a great freshman year. He kind of didn't progress as much as we had hoped his sophomore year. So safe to say he'd probably be in the prove it category. Elite consistent producers are where we hope everybody on this page ends up by the end of the season. Those are players you can count on game in, game out to perform and positively affect a football game in a significant way. And then superstar impact player, a very unique category. I put a very strict rule on this category, and that is only 2 per side of the ball. So if any of you guys have played the old NCAA football games, you have 2 impact players per side of the ball, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. We're going to adhere to that same rule for this category on the tier list. Something different, something fun, so let's get right into it. So I'm just going to kind of pull from this list one at a time. I'm going to pull at random and see what we put together and see how things look. And maybe we'll do this again at the end of the year and see where everyone progressed. Hopefully everyone's in the elite consistent producer category by the end of the year. So starting off, let's go with one of the biggest names on the team, someone who we're all really excited to see from this year. We think we're going to see from him, but we're not entirely sure. Connor Wigman. So Connor, step right up. It's your turn to be categorized. So I think that we've seen enough from Connor to be very excited about him. But we don't know for sure if he can, perform the way he did to close the year at LSU for an entire season. Because of that, I'm going to put him in the prove it category. I think he ends up in the elite consistent producer category. But for now, we do need to see it. We need to see it from Connor Wigman. And if he ends up being QB1, like a lot of us think he will be, we think he can take that leap, and we'll know a lot early in the season. In the first 2 games, we'll kind of know where he's at in his development, because you get the ease into your schedule with the New Mexico game. You'll see a lot from him there. Then you jump into the Miami game, and in that away environment, the first road test of the year with him or Max at the helm, we're going to learn a hell of a lot. So right now, I need Connor to prove it. Now, I was about to pull Jake Johnson instead of Max Johnson because they're brothers and they look alike, but Max Johnson. Now, I would say that he is definitely more proven than Wegman because we've seen him a year at LSU. We know all too well what he did at LSU because he destroyed Texas A&M in his last game there. I still think we need to see it from him at A&M for a multiple game stretch because, unfortunately, when he was getting good last year, that's when he got hurt. Right when he was getting to the swing of things, he was getting some consistency. So I think both quarterbacks are in the prove it category. So how does that bode for the team? Well, I think a lot of this is going to get hammered out in fall camp. They're going to pick whoever's trending the best. And I think whoever ends up getting this number 1 QB spot is going to end up as an elite consistent producer and hopefully a superstar impact player. Because if you have one of those at the quarterback, you're feeling really good about your chances. I'm looking at Edge Cooper right here. He's kind of just sticking out to me. And I think it's between the prove it and elite consistent producer category. I'm not confident enough to put him into the superstar impact player category because he needs to prove it. He has another leap in the chamber, we believe. He was good last year. He was good the year before. But but we think there's another level there, and this team really wants and needs that kind of production from Edgerrin Cooper. I'm going to put him in the elite consistent producer category because I think that's what he's going to be for the team this year. But he's the kind of guy that has slight chances to like bounce up into that superstar category. But will he do it? I don't know. So there's kind of a prove it there, but it's from good to great rather than relatively unknown to good. Let's go with Ruben Fothery here. I mentioned him earlier as a prove it kind of player because he did have somewhat of a down year last year. I think he would tell you that, and I think he has said that in interviews. I think he's going to prove it. Hopefully he's healthy. Let's see what he does this year. And going alongside that, I think Bryce Foster's also in this category. I think he has a lot to prove after missing so much football, not seeing him for a long time since his freshman year. I think he has a lot to prove to us, to himself, and I think he's in for a big kind of revenge type season. So these two guys should be elite consistent producers on the year. I'm confident that Ruben Fothery and Bryce Foster will become that kind of player. Now, one of my personal favorite players on the team, Jardin Gilbert, ball hawking safety, had a huge game versus Alabama. I'm really high on this guy. I'm putting him in as an elite consistent producer on the year. I think he's really, really good. I think he's going to be a star for this defense. Now, DJ Hicks, definitely potential breakout player. I think he could be an elite consistent producer. He's not going to play every snap, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, but I do think he's going to produce consistently. How good is he going to be? DJ Hicks, man. Those are the words that Jimbo spoke about him in his last press conference, so DJ Hicks, man. A couple other potential breakout players. Javen Thomas, the true freshman safety. He's been mentioned by several players in press conferences, and that is typically a really, really good sign. So I think he is poised for a breakout kind of a year as a true freshman. I think he's going to get into games. I don't know if he's going to start or if it's going to be DeBerry. It's going to be one of them two. So we're not sure who it is going to be yet. I think DeBerry, I don't know if it's a breakout for DeBerry because he's been an all-ACC player. He was an all-ACC player 2 years ago. And he comes into the team from the transfer portal from Boston College, I believe. I believe it was Boston College. I could be wrong there. But I think he's a prove-it kind of player. I don't think you would consider it a breakout. I think he could prove to be that all-ACC type of player that he was before and really make a name for himself on this team. Look for these two to kind of bust onto the scene this year. I think these two guys are going to play a lot. That's my opinion. Now, let's go back to some elite consistent producers. I think Fadil Diggs definitely belongs in this category. Sorely missed in the games he was out last year. This team needs a pass rush. I trust that he will be an elite consistent producer. Malik Silla, speaking of pass rush, I think he's about to have a prove-it kind of year. A breakout kind of a year. I think Malik Silla really gets into this rotation, gets much more consistent regular play, especially on third down passing situations. I think he's going to play a lot this year. I think there's a really good chance he gets some sacks on the year. Now, let's get someone to that superstar impact player category. I know it, you know it. Someone that belongs there as a sophomore is Evan Stewart. I think Evan Stewart is going to be the leader of this offense, at least on the field. Probably a good leader. He seems to have a really good head about him. I think this guy is a game-changing type of player, someone you can rely on game in and game out. I'm giving him that impact player nod. Someone else that you can give that impact player nod on in that receiving core, I'm going to give it to Ainias. I think he brings that experience. He's going to be hungry. You know when you get hurt and you miss a whole year and you're forced to watch your teammates in the kind of year that they had last year, which was full of turmoil and suffering, unfortunately, in a 5-7 year at Texas A&M, you don't meet expectations. You don't feel good. He had a lot of reflecting done last year. I believe his head is probably in a great spot right now coming back from that injury. We know he's good on the field. We know he has talent. Now it's his time. I think this is a great year for Ainias in the Bobby Petrino system with a consistent quarterback. I think this is a great, great situation for Ainias to prove himself worthy of a NFL draft pick. And I think he's going to do it. I think he's a superstar impact kind of player. Another potential breakout guy, Noah Thomas. We've been hearing about it over and over again. This is the kind of guy that could honestly jump from this bottom tier to the top tier. I don't know who he's kicking out of there, but maybe next year you see him as a superstar player based on what people are saying. MVP of spring, looks so quick for his size, great hands. I think we have a lot of high expectations for him this year, and I think they're warranted just based on what we've heard. Chris Russell. Now, on the given categories here, it's a little tough. You kind of want him to prove it, even though he did take a big leap last year. He still wasn't consistent every single game. So I'm going to say Chris Russell still has a bit to prove. I think he can do it because he took strides last year late in his college career. So he's still improving. I think he has a great chance to raise himself up to an elite consistent producer on this team. It's his last chance. This is his last year. He's all out of eligibility. So we hope to see that from Chris Russell because he's going to be playing a lot this year in a very inexperienced linebacker room. Walter Nolan, the highest rated recruit on this team. I think he's clearly an elite consistent producer, borderline superstar impact player already, but I have a couple other guys in mind for this defense. You'll see what I mean. Damani Richardson is a guy that could also bust up into that top category. I think he's going to be an elite consistent producer. I think if he plays like he has been the last couple of years, he's an elite consistent producer. We just kind of always thought there was this like superstar leap with Damani. At least we did when he was a true freshman. Now he's gotten better and better, but he's never taken that superstar leap. So I'm putting him in the elite consistent producer category, and I'm feeling really good about that. Now, a defender that I think is clearly about to enter this superstar category. Didn't play too much last year because he started the year super late. He was hurt to start the season, and that is McKinley Jackson, the 325 interior D lineman who looks like an absolute athletic stud for his size. He looks ridiculous in the glimpses we're seeing of him in fall camp, just so quick for that size. Pass rush from the interior, blowing up run plays, super versatile for his size. I think we're going to have a really fun time watching McKinley Jackson this year. Isaiah Rakes is a guy who gets a lot of consistent minutes or snaps and just plays a lot and does a lot of good things out there. I'm putting him in the elite consistent producer category. I think he's a really good player for this defense. I think he's proven. I don't think he has that huge leap in him, but I think he's definitely a player you trust to go out there and just play for the team and be good and be effective. Eni White, potential breakout player, much like Malik Silla. This team needs players to step up into that true edge rush category, and I think Eni White, long, twitchier type of player, fits that mold perfectly, obviously. Did some stand-up defensive end stuff last year, played a little bit of like that hybrid linebacker position. I think we're going to see more and more of him this year now that he's a sophomore coming in from that huge 2022 class. Now, this is kind of alarming, but I'm going to do it. Layden Robinson into the prove it category. So your three most experienced offensive linemen all in the prove it category. And this is such an area of contention or concern for this team is the offensive line. With three guys in that prove it category, that means you have a lot of uncertainty going into the year. Now, I think most of us believe these guys are ready to get right. These guys are ready to go out there and show that they're a legitimate offensive line with great experience now. Two juniors and one, I think Layden's a fifth-year senior. So you have a lot of experience, and you got to prove it. These guys are experienced. They could be better than they were last year. We think they will. They have to do it. Now, to round out the offensive linemen that I have on this list, Chase Basantis, potential breakout kind of a player, whether it's in subs, whether it's filling in for Fathery if he ends up not being healthy on the year. We've heard great things about Basantis since he got on campus. I think we're going to see it at some point in the year, whether it's for him beating someone out or him having to play for someone injured. I think there's a great chance he gets in there and we feel good about it. Much like Cam Dewberry, who was forced to play last year, and we were very, very happy with the results we saw. I'm putting Cam Dewberry as the youngest starter on this offensive line that we know of going into the year in the elite consistent producer category because he was the most consistent offensive lineman last year. The offensive line got better when he got into the game as a true freshman, and I think we're going to lean on him heavily this year. I think if he is what he was last year and if he takes that leap, he's going to be a stud, all-American type of player. And if these three prove-it offensive linemen can get it together, this O-line could be really good. As I've said before, this O-line has a high range of variance. So we're really hoping that this thing takes the next step. Now, Max Johnson's brother, Jake Johnson. Now that Donovan Green has unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury, he definitely has breakout potential on the year. We saw a little bit of him blocking last year. He didn't really get too involved in the receiving game, but we think he's going to be really good. He has the athletic tools. He has that pedigree from his family, super competitive family. We think he's going to break out on the year. Someone that needs to prove it, I think, is Shamar Stewart. He played all year last year, consistent minutes, one of the most healthy players on the team. I don't know if he missed any games. He may have missed the Florida game when everybody had the flu. But he played a lot last year. And while he was good, he was consistent. He didn't really take that jump throughout the year. He was really good, but there's definitely a jump poised to happen for Shamar Stewart. So we're hoping that happens. He's going to play a lot. Another D tackle, another hybrid type of D tackle that can play inside and outside, strong side, is Shamar Turner, the other Shamar. I think Shamar Turner is clearly an elite, consistent producer, borderline superstar impact player. Now, Tyreek Chappelle, the most tenured cornerback on the team, he's going to play a lot. He's going to cover a lot of really good receivers. We're going to rely on him a lot. He's really good. I think he's an elite, consistent producer. I have no questions about him. I hope he stays healthy because he is the leader in that cornerback position group. Ruben Owens, obviously potential breakout kind of a player. We know who he is. We know what he has up his sleeves. We need to see it. I don't know how much we'll see it early, but I am confident we'll see it by the end of the year. We'll see a lot of it. There's going to be there are three running backs there, as we know. I think he's the most talented, and he's eventually going to get some burn out there. Now, Martrell Harris is a player that I have touted as one of the most important pivotal players on this team because in the area of concern that is linebackers at Texas A&M, he's the next man up. He's the most experienced. He's been in the system the longest of all the linebackers that aren't starting this year. So important to this team. I think he's a prove-it kind of player. I think he has a chance to get a lot of minutes being the third linebacker in the rotation. He's going to play a lot of special teams. It's time for him to give us that confidence that this linebacker room is poised to have a new leader in the future. Now, someone who I'm confident to put in the elite consistent producer category is LT Overton. He played a lot last year. He's going to play a lot this year. He's trimmed up, going to be more of a true edge rusher. He looked really good as a super young, reclassified true freshman last year. I'm expecting big things from him this year. Another potential breakout player, Gabe Brownlow-Dindy, did not play much last year. We're hoping that he is able to stay healthy on the year because we know what kind of talent he is. If you just look at him, he has a dense body. This guy is ready to go wreak some havoc on the inside of that defensive line. Now, there are two names left. One has to go to the superstar impact player. One's a receiver, so you can't put him in there, so you know who's going in there. It's Bryce Anderson. I think he's going to have such a breakout year. He's going to become known across the country this year. Think about like an Antonio Johnson when it was his time to shine and he became the starter and we knew what kind of talent he was because he played so much the year before, and it's his time to start and be a mainstay on this defense. I think you put a superstar on his name. And then Moose Muhammad, clearly an elite, consistent producer. This wide receiver group looks mean. So there you go, guys. That is the tier list right there. What do you guys think of that? How did I do? Would you move anybody around here? I was pretty selective with the names I chose to put on this, to put in this exercise, but I wanted to choose some names that were more fun and maybe more well-known. So this is how I feel, guys. How about you guys? We have a lot of exciting players on this team, but a lot of players need to make a leap. A lot of these prove-it players really need to become elite, consistent producers on this year for this team to go where it thinks it can go on the year, and that's become like a 10-plus win team. So, guys, give me your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys, and gig 'em.